Hi, welcome to Calmer Lives, therapeutic support embracing neurodiversity. This is our check-in series, a chance for myself, Howard Hoskins, and fellow therapeutic mentor Jennifer Levey to share our thoughts, experiences, and maybe the odd tip supporting neurodivergent individuals and their families. Hopefully, a little something for anyone to take away, whether you're a neurodivergent young person, neurodivergent adult, parent, carer, family member, friend, or a professional. We invite you now to take a moment and join us as we discuss the latest topics on our mind.
Christmas. The traditions, expectations, self-care, and finding what works for you and your family.
Oh, here's what I'm noticing some families up to at the moment, or here's some expectations that are overwhelming some families that we're coming across, and they seem to be creating their own traditions, removing some of the social expectations. Certainly the ones I've come across in this past week. It's been really interesting hearing some of the things that a particular lad, he wasn't anti-Christmas at all, but there were certain social engagements that were really frustrating for him. And one really resonated for me was he was really hacked off. He's making all this effort of getting into school at the moment. And then there's just this other new, novel, slightly awkward social expectation, Secret Santa.
Oh, yeah.
Something that most of us would navigate our way through, understand why that's a thing. And then it's like, oh no, that resonated with me this week because I've signed up for Secret Santa for work as well. And now I've got to do this thing by a certain timeline and think who I'm buying it for, and it's got to cost less than a fiver, and why would I do that for someone I don't know very well? And all these kind of questions start building up.
Yeah. So did you have a chat with him about it?
I've not met him directly, so I'm getting kind of mum's account of it being another little, what do I call this? Another
little
pressure, isn't it? It's
another load.
Another load. Yeah. I came across it was Tigger Pritchard's one, that neurodivergent professional. I remember meeting him once, and he uses this great analogy of he's into his coffee. That's me holding a coffee cup. And he gets families to draw a big picture of a huge coffee mug, and then the top band are like the big demands of life that you would expect. They're kind of everyday pressures, isn't it? To get to work. That's quite a thick one. Work. What other thick ones would there be that happen for most families?
Getting up, getting ready.
Getting up. I've got no room left in my coffee cup already. But then I like the way Tigger then gets families to really start, oh my gosh, look at a typical day. And there's all these extra little bands of injections of little pressures, little loads and demands. And that Secret Santa kind of popped into my head as another one. And then I'm hearing at the same time that this lad, he's really suddenly had a bit of a blip in his school at the moment, where there's been some discrimination against him, some racism that's been occurring for a long time.
Right.
So when you add another chunk on top, he's reacted in the only way he feels he can, and he's not going in at the moment. High anxiety. I am going to big up the school. They're doing amazing. He's already found his way into an alternate provision. I think it's called the Outdoors Group, but it's the one in East Devon. So they're doing all sorts to help support. But they're also struggling to give him that clarity and predictability that it can be safe the next time he comes in, because you're still going to come across the kid that said that word. And so there's only so far sometimes you can go, isn't it, to meet his expectation and being safe there. Yeah, it's a tricky one. And then you add in the Secret Santa on top. That kind of resonated for me.
Yeah. I think there's so much about the unknowns of things like Secret Santa or changes in curriculum or changes in the day or changes in the way up to Christmas. So we were going shopping once a week. Now Mum says we've got to go twice because we've got to buy extra food or we've got
Yeah,
extra deliveries and all of those kinds of just everything gets ramped up and there's kind of excitement mixed with anxiety, mixed with worry, isn't there? And mixed
yeah,
with tiredness.
yeah. And then you get your daily Advent reminder of it. There's only so long to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. I know recently for some of my a couple of my families who've got younger children who are really the whole present side of things and that build up. I've kind of suggested actually that the child knows what they're going to get. You know, that
Yeah,
there's not
yeah,
that it's still wrapped up, but they know exactly what they're going to get so that it's not, oh no, what's it going to be? And then that really difficult energy and to deal with that regulation on the day because the day itself is enough to regulate.
that's really interesting because I can compare that straight away to this chap that I'm listening about this week. And yeah, they've made those areas, those pressures a lot more predictable. He knows what he's got coming. It's
Yeah,
dealt with. Yeah, yeah. So that's one less kind of hurdle on the big day.
yeah, yeah. And I think we can sometimes think, oh, we don't need to have a visual so much. We're not at school anymore. We don't need to have like a visual schedule of the day, visual timetable, anything like that. But I think for some it's probably still got, you know, a real relevance at home, even, you know, to know that on Christmas Day we get up, then we have a drink, whatever, then we might look at what Santa bought. So to actually having a sometimes for especially for younger kids, having still a plan
Hmm.
rather than no plan, let's just have fun. That can be really tricky. No plan, let's just have fun. That can be very unknown and broad, can't it?
Yeah, I can see where it might come from the parents though, like
Yeah,
as a value, isn't it? As an
yeah,
expectation that this is the
yeah,
day that you have fun. Like it's
yeah.
we've been
And
told
also,
for the past month that this has been building and this is our fun family day.
yeah,
Yeah.
and also trying to be low demand, trying to say, well, we don't have to do anything you don't want to. We can just play, we can just do what you want. But I think sometimes it could be almost like, well, let's have a menu board then. Let's have something
Okay.
that gives us something concrete. We can move it around, we can change it on the day, give the child some control, sense of control of I don't want to do it that way round, I want to do it this way round. But having some sort of okay, I've got something I can put a frame, it's a framework for me to work to or to go to if I'm feeling a bit unsure what's next. Mm.
Remember a young lady, an adult, a woman that I've had the pleasure of supporting for kind of on and off now. It must be a good 4 or 5 years at least, and seeing someone go from teenage years into a really mature, amazing young woman, and Christmas right from goodness, there were certainly a lot of conversations around that about how she'd adapted coping strategies for herself around that around any celebratory day,
Mm.
so Christmas,
Yeah.
birthdays, because of the not just the unknowns, but wanting to appease people and being so worried that the receiving of gifts that I might not react in a way that meets the expectation of the other person.
Oh,
And that would be
yeah.
sitting with her for a long time in that build up.
Yeah.
And so I remember her coming up with some strategies that she still she cherishes these sort of celebratory days and will do everything to sort of go above and beyond to think, how am I going to get the right present for the right people and all that effort that she puts into that. But I remember her saying when it came to receiving and taking some of that pressure off was and not wanting to lose that sense of enjoyment of Christmas as well, because she also like I want to capture that whole day because it is a positive day. She would spend the entire period between Christmas and New Year opening presents during that time, so it wasn't lost in that one hit. She would really
Oh,
stretch it out.
right.
So I found that quite interesting
Yeah.
that she'd kind of strategized that for herself.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and I think then just making her parents and family more aware of I feel it quite uncomfortable opening things in front of you. But I really cherish and value that, and I think it's just giving her that skill to advocate for that and people understanding why that was the case for her.
Yeah, yeah,
Because if people weren't recognizing why that was, and it feels a bit like, oh, you've been a bit awkward. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, she was fascinating to get that level of detail. She had the skills, I must admit, to articulate these things. She has a really broad vocabulary, an amazing kind of use of language, where I guess some people wouldn't have that outlet to give that information to their parents and family. So they may
yeah,
just look from the outside. We just see the behavior then, don't we?
yeah. Unimpressed or kind of, oh, you're quiet, do you not like it? Um, that sort of, oh, you're not very grateful then. All of those sorts of assumptions, isn't it? If the person perhaps is just overwhelmed and doesn't get in the moment, isn't able to say what they want to say. Um, it's interesting saying about her spreading the presence out, because I've definitely noticed with some of my families near where I live, where they, I think part of starting Christmas earlier is about the transition. And I know from a mum I worked with last year, she was saying for her personally, being autistic, ADHD, PDA, as well as her daughter, that the tree had to be done in stages. It was just
Okay.
too much of a change. And then it had to be done in stages, taking it down as well on the other side.
Mm.
So it just was emotionally very triggering to have suddenly a whole tree decorated in the living room. So it would be just put up little bit by little bit,
Yeah. And is
and
that
then
also like a sensitivity to the environment changing? It's similar but
definitely,
different, and now
yeah,
it's really kind of vivid in my
yeah,
vision. It's there, and it's a bit jarring because it's not
yeah.
usually there.
Yeah, definitely the environment side of things and adjusting to the change, but also I think there's this sense of demand of I want to put up the tree, but it's because I've got to put up the trees, I've expected to put up the tree, but that kind of push pull of expectation. I want to, but then I feel like I'm made to, so then it's harder. So I'm just going to do a bit, and then I'm going to choose when I do the next bit. Um, all of those things as well.
I'm going to go off on a tangent now. How does it work? What's the traditions in your family when it comes to putting up that tree? Then who takes what roles?
It's interesting. We do have quite distinct roles.
Yeah.
So the girls are very definite that we all have to be present when the decorations come down from the loft.
Okay. So
And
that's
then
your family gathering moment, is it? It's like the opening of the loft.
which and the music has to go on. We have to have
Okay.
music,
What with Christmas music, is it?
Christmas music.
Hmm.
At which point, and then we'll tend to retreat. And then it's four of us, and we put up the tree, and lights is my job, it would seem, and then baubles is anyone.
Free for
um,
all baubles. They're less
um,
precious, are they? There's less sentimental value to that particular object.
I think they just think that's just something we can generally easily do around each other,
Okay.
whereas the lights is a one person job, and they trust mum.
Be nice to be
um,
the one trusted. Great.
And then all the other bits and bobs of decorations, they sort of spread throughout the day in between hot chocolates or coffee and mince pies and that kind of thing. And those sort of, oh, if this thing doesn't, we can't use that this year, we have to go to the shop and go and get something else and then back again and then carry, yeah. So it's a day of kind of structured doing and then you'll reappear at the end of it.
I love how families we create. It's the word, isn't it? Traditions. We create traditions for ourselves, and they're
I
so
think it's
unique.
rituals, yeah,
Yeah, these little
yeah.
rituals, but they keep because they include other people. They keep slightly changing over time, don't they? They get more emphasis a certain year because someone's got a slightly new angle on it and a new take, and it was a pleasurable experience when you took that on. And if
Yeah.
it wasn't, you'd bin it. It's like, I'm not going anywhere near that's why would I do that? It has to be like this. I can't handle that variation. It's not how it works for us. Uh, but there's some great stuff in terms of kind of I'm always thinking how to help parents be this kind of these guiding opportunities. So how do I create settings where they can be this mindful guide? And there's something about traditions that lend themselves to very kind of co-regulatory activities side by side,
Mm,
going at a certain pace together, introducing a new
mm,
idea. There's a bit of a back and forth to them, isn't there,
mm,
as you're doing that tree. You've got really
mm,
defined roles.
mm.
So the one that some 1 minute is the one kind of positioning while the other one's pointing. I've got an image of this grand loft opening now. There's a it's become someone's job, but over time you kind of find yourself sort of swapping roles in that, don't you? So there's always a good backdrop with these traditions that I think it's a good chance for our young person to be very involved, and they tend to be slightly less pressured activities, I would suggest,
Yeah, I
possibly.
think so. Although I I do notice that all of us, when you've got everything out, the mess, you just it's almost like you can feel this prickling. You're just like,
Ah,
oh, like how much more have we got to endure mess before we get to the moment? Because it is sort of organized chaos for a bit, and then but at the end it's all going to feel really lovely and really cozy and really just glowing and warm and inviting. But in the midst of it, it's carnage, and there's a moment of okay, there's now the music is getting annoying.
maybe taking us back to that family you were describing then, with that sort of slower transition period,
Mm,
and one piece
mm,
at a time. Maybe they're not having to
mm.
endure that prickliness.
Yeah.
They're not having to endure it for
Mm.
quite such
It's not
a
as
long piece of
intense. Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's still a core, we want to do this thing together.
Yeah.
Despite a little bit
Mm,
of prickliness, it's still worth doing because
mm,
you get we must get enough pleasure out of doing that alongside someone
mm,
else, or have
yeah.
at least have competency in it, isn't it? That our young person at least has some skills in that. Otherwise, they would be pretty quick to tell us, no, this isn't happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I think overall I think it's different in every household, but I think I know some people hate putting up their decorations, don't they? They absolutely just dread it. They'd sooner they could just go out and some come back and somebody else had done it.
Mm.
I was listening to somebody phoned in on the radio yesterday. I was driving home and this lady said, well, I put on the music and there I was listening to the radio and thinking about now's the time to do the decorations. So I got myself set up for it, went into the garage, got the boxes out the garage, brought the boxes into the living room, opened the boxes, looked in the boxes, and then thought, no, I can't be bothered. And I put everything back in the boxes and put it back in the garage.
Fair play, yeah.
And then went back to listening to the radio.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
really good in it to say scheduling when am I available? You've got
When
to
do I
know
want
when
to?
am I available to even attempt this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it can feel so forced. And maybe, yeah, when you've had too many repeat occasions of it not being in flow with another person, you're not going to keep wanting to go back to it. It's too hard under those conditions. So I always really enjoy with families going, what's our what is that baseline of being competent together? How long can we be in each other's presence and be mindful, be patient with one another, not put the demands of the skill too far ahead of that other person if they haven't got the skills in place yet, and forgive ourselves when we might not be available, just because there's pressures to get those boxes out by however many days it is before Christmas. Maybe sometimes she's done the best thing for herself, isn't it? I had to attend to myself first before I could even proceed, let alone involve someone else at that time. So quite
Yeah.
like that kind of idea. Ah. Christmas in our household, it's ever evolving. Young family, 3-year-old, 1-year-old. Low demand Christmas our end involves 2 advent calendars. They're not ready to share one yet. That's not happening. A Christmas tree for adults and parents that we're trying to say that's our space. Yeah, right. That's not going to happen. But we did put a little one up next to it with the hint that you can do whatever the hell you want to that one. And this must seem really weird to anyone on the outside if anyone saw us doing this. But every time my little one was like a cat trying to grab every blooming ball on the tree and put it in his mouth, and then you're like, okay, I'm trying to slow myself up from stop and trying to like rip it off him because he was going back to it every 20 seconds. He's back on this tree. And they're like, you can smell it or you can kiss the ball. That was things that can happen. So I kept repeating this message. You can kiss it. Like my mind was gone at this point. But then I've got his sister and him kissing baubles now. So when they go up to the tree, they kiss a bauble. Looks weird to the outside, but I get my well-positioned bauble staying where I put it. I'm happy with that.
Fantastic.
There you go. But yeah,
Oh,
it's working for the
no,
moment.
yeah. Oh, so have they accepted that the big one is mummy and daddy's and the little one is ours?
There's a bit of that ability to social reference, so they kind of you can see them. Am I going to just like impulse control and just dive in there and grab it? But now there is a bit of hesitation, just enough time for me to go kissing, smelling. Like, the smelling comes from it's funny how you link moments, don't you, to try and kind of just again, it's another one. How do I rephrase a no? Those early days when they're picking every flower in your garden because they're just exploring and they just want to touch, they want to feel, they want to explore every sense in their mouth. Like, as an adult, just looking at it's fine. Like that's enough. But it's so often, isn't it? It's going there and it's there. So we really early on, it's kind of keeping that message. This is what can happen. You might get a lot out of just using your another sense, but that definitely can happen. So yeah, whenever they're in the garden, I was always kind of hollering across the garden, smell it, explore it, study it, get your magnifying glass out. Just trying to
Just
hold
don't eat
myself
it.
back. Just stop eating. Because it didn't matter how many times I went in with that point and raise my voice. I know it can change behavior that way, but it didn't. It affected it in such a short amount of time, and it didn't feel kind of right. And I was just getting exhausted, knowing that for what we share to the world, isn't it? I know that can shape behavior, but it's to a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, it's not going to give them the other skills.
No.
And I think that really resonates when we're working with young people that are more prone to rigid, inflexible behavior. We've got to give them a bit more room, haven't we? A bit more space to explore something. Otherwise, we're an antagonist. We're only going to link to their one response,
Yeah,
which
I
doesn't
think
serve
it,
them that well when things then keep changing and the traditions change and
yeah,
the safety elements
yeah,
change and people have
yeah,
the grey bits.
yeah. And it's, I suppose, when you're responding with what you can do, it's about keeping that curiosity and exploring side alive, isn't it? Keeping with that and not stamping on it. Um, and also just the energy, like you said, if we once we go into that negative energy, it's so tiring. It's way we think it's more effort to do the other, but actually negative energy is so draining. When you and once you're on your way down, it's very easy to keep on going.
Yeah, it just keeps fueling itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So should we round off Christmas then, on that note then, have you been exploring any ideas with families how they are going to offer themselves a bit of self-care and not get too drained at this time of year? I know we covered a bit of it, didn't we? But is there anything else that jumps to mind?
Well, I was talking to a couple the other day, and really, and they'd had quite an interesting time putting up the tree with their two young children. And that that one child needing the monopoly on the control, and it all being very difficult, and then add to that the week and stuff that has to be done and all of that, and the strain. And we just really rounded out our session with each other, talking about checking in with ourselves and our load, if you like, and our well-being. And even if we've got a really jam-packed full diary, where can we take those mindful moments, if it's like 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, of just going into your bedroom and just doing a breathing exercise for a couple of minutes, or gazing out the window and staring at the clouds and seeing what pictures you can see in them, or thinking about a nice memory, or all those kind of little small mindful things. And it not having to be a set thing, because we're all different. So just what and Dad shared that he does get to sort of meet with his mates once a week, which is great for him. And Mum doesn't have so much window, and she was more into running and sort of topping up her well-being with that, but had an injury. So we're sort of exploring, okay, so wonder what we could do around that, with that instead, that gives you just breath, just yours. Because we all know that if our battery is running on low or zero, or Tigger Pritchard, spoons, we got no spoons left, we got one spoon left, and we've got a child that's on the brink of losing their spoons. How are we going to hold that situation if we've got no spoons left ourselves? So
and did the mum, with your bit of guidance, did you manage to have a space where you got creative about replacing a spoon other than running? Was there an alternate that she could think of?
She was saying about doing stretching, sort of more like yoga type stuff. Yeah.
Super. Yeah. So sometimes that's what our sessions are all about, isn't it? It's just kind of giving that bit of reflection space, knowing that there's probably more than one option out there, and then it's a little nudge then to go and play and explore that other option that you just gave her space to think.
Yeah, and it is as often, isn't it, having to come out of this stuff that we're in, to have a moment to go, I've not been giving myself those moments. Okay, now I reset again. I can just I can't have my hour this week, or I can't have my coffee with my friend. What can I do? What can I adapt so that I get something that just tops me up a little bit? And really with that as well, validating, it's really difficult being a parent. It's tough. It's really tough sometimes. You're juggling balls all the time, every day, and so those feelings, like we've got to be some sort of super mum or super dad, that it's valid. If we're feeling like, this is a bit of a slog in this moment, allow that feeling. Go, well, this is why I'm feeling like this. It's understandable. I'm going to be kind to myself. What's my 1 minute of kindness?
Yeah, that's why I'm really impressed with families at this time of year that have keeping their values high and expectations and family and social gatherings, but they've managed to find a way of saying that's important to us, but we're going to start to do things in a way that is manageable for us.
Yeah.
And that's the essential bit, isn't it? For some, it really is recovering from a year of being on the edge of burnout, and I would hope that some of that meaning and tradition of Christmas, however people view it, it's the middle of winter. We've got to dial back a little bit, get a bit of recovery, and then gear up for all those good intentions and new habits that we're going to sign up to for the new year. And that'll be a conversation for another day. Thank you so much for your time. We hope there was something in there for you that you can take away. And Merry Christmas to you, your families. We hope it finds you well at this time of year, and maybe somewhere in there you'll be leading a calmer, more connected and happier Christmas this year. And remember, if you are looking for some more individualised, tailored support, don't hesitate to get in touch. We welcome an opportunity for a phone call or check out more information on our website. All the best. Bye.